Shabbos. This week's portion is Parshas Yisro. An important part of this portion are the Ten Commandments. And as everyone knows, the first of the Ten Commandments are Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Otzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avadim. I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. Now I call this the Ten Commandments, but this is obviously not a commandment. It says, I am the Lord. It doesn't command anything. It's a statement. Maimonides, though, understands this as a commandment that we have to know who God is, accept who God is, believe in God. And Maimonides, of course, understands that the commandment is really a philosophical understanding of God to be able to demonstrate the existence of God. Other commentaries say, you can't command a belief in God because either you believe or you don't believe. Maimonides feels that it's something which, if you put your intellect to it, you'll be able to comprehend it and be able to apprehend it, and therefore it is a commandment. But simply, when you read it, it's not. And the real problem here is that, according to Maimonides, the belief in God has to do with God is the primary the cause of the world, the first cause of the world, and he has philosophical arguments based on Greek philosophy to explain, to demonstrate that God is the creator and that we should have monotheistic belief. But when you read this first of the statements of the Ten Commandments, it doesn't say, I'm the Lord your God who created the heaven and the earth. It just says, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. And therefore, we see that a simple reading doesn't seem to be as Maimonides claims it is, but rather it's something else completely. And simply, when you read it, it's a bris, it's a covenant, it's a pact between God and the Jewish people. And God is really saying, I am the Lord who took you out of Egypt. You owe your existence to me, both for your life and the life of a nation. And therefore, you should know who I am. And therefore, the next sentence flows, you shouldn't have any other gods. I am the God who saved you. I am the God who took you out. I am the God of the Jewish people. And we might understand that when we read the Torah, we go back and it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, or in the beginning of God's creation of the heaven and earth, he created light and he created everything that exists in the universe. But that's not what this states, and that's not the foundation of our belief, according to many commentaries. And I think the simple explanation is that our belief in God is not always justified by philosophical arguments. It's not always an intellectual approach to the problem, but rather it's one of somewhat of almost an emotional relationship or a transactional relationship. God takes us out, we owe him. That's what a pact is. That's what a covenant is between two peoples, or a king and his people, or a God and his people. And most people, that's the way they relate to God. At the end of the day, most people are not philosophers. And even if they are, they don't necessarily come to the same conclusion as someone like Maimonides did. But what they do know is the relationship they have on a day-to-day basis. So for the Jewish people coming out of Egypt, it was the God who took you out of Egypt. When God reveals himself at one point to Avraham, he says, I am the God who took you out from Ur Kasdim, from the Ur of the Chaldean Ur, back in Mesopotamia, right? It's what you have experienced from God. And I like to quote my father, always says that even as a rabbi, no matter what you do, at the end of the day, people are wondering, what have you done for me lately? And that's how people relate. When you have a relationship with God, when you realize God is with you, or sometimes, sadly, we feel the absence of God, that could sometimes break our relationship. So I think we also will always have to understand and constantly relate to our everyday experiences. Do our everyday experiences give us a belief in God? Do we have a relationship with God? When we pray to God, do we feel that there's a God there who's answering? Do we feel that connection that we have? That's the God of the Ten Commandments. That's the God who makes the statement, I am the God who took you out of Egypt, took you out of Ur Kasdim, who maybe helped you in hard times, or the God who you turned to when you were suffering. It's the God who you prayed to. It's the God who answered your prayers. Or it's the God who you cry out to when God doesn't seem to listen to you. That's the God that most people relate to. And I think that's what the Ten Commandments, these really Aseres HaDevarim, the 10 statements are. They're really a statement of belief, of acceptance of God into our everyday life. Good Shabbos.